All right, peeps, I'm going to work out these three problems for you. As a reminder, this is very similar to what you've been doing. We're going to set it up the same way. The only difference is we're going to use a different button in our calculator to solve. Okay? So if you recall, we want to first find our reference angle. And in this case, the reference angle is the angle we're trying to solve for. So if you notice, it's already marked with the question mark, but I'm going to go ahead and put a little red arc there. And from there, I'm going to label my sides. And remember, you want to label in this order. Across from the 90 is your hypotenuse. Across from your chosen angle, or your reference angle, is your opposite. And then the last one will be your adjacent. Okay? The next thing you want to do is figure out which one of these guys we're going to use. Is it going to use sine? Are we going to use cosine? Or are we going to use tangent? Okay, so katoa. Oops. All right, so let's figure that out. Again, I mentioned to figure this out, we want to first circle the sides that in this case actually have numbers associated with them. So that means we're going to focus on hypotenuse and we're going to focus on adjacent, and we're going to ignore opposite because there's no measurement here. So now, based on adjacent and hypotenuse, which one of those uses adjacent and hypotenuse only? And that answer is cosine. So we now know that we're going to use cosine. And we're going to use cosine of our chosen angle. In this case, our chosen angle is unknown. So I'm going to put it as cosine of unknown angle x. Put a little degree there because it's an angle. And it's equal to the formula for cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent over hypotenuse, in this case is 15 over 31. Okay, and now we want to solve for x, and here is the difference. If you look, cosine or x is actually a degree. It's the angle. So in other words, we must get rid of cosine. Okay? To eliminate cosine, so we got to split cosine away from x. So we need to eliminate cosine. The only thing that eliminates cosine is the inverse or the opposite of cosine. And the opposite of cosine is this guy. Okay? This means inverse or cosine -1 is inverse of cosine. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Okay? So this is what happens. We are eliminating cosine. And we're left with the x degree equals to cosine -1 of 15 over 31. And actually, x is solved for. This would be your non-decimal answer here. But we want to go ahead and find the actual answer because we can't really comprehend this. So we're going to do 15 divided by 31. And we get x equals cosine of -1. And the fraction turns into 0.4838. 0.4838. And now we are going to find 0.4838 and push the cosine inverse button. So on your calculator, you're going to need to find the cosine inverse button. You might have to push the shift or second button to find it. If you find the correct button, you should get x equals to 61 degrees. Again, I'm rounding to the nearest degree. Okay? So, to summarize, we want to label based on chosen angle, choose the correct trig formula or trig function, eliminate our trig function by doing the inverse of our trig function to both sides, work out this into decimal form using the calculator, so 15 divided by 31, and then find the correct inverse button to compute. All right, let's try again. So again, here's our chosen angle, and we are going to label across from the 90 as my hypotenuse. Across from my chosen angle is my opposite, and the last guy is your adjacent. Now we want to create a formula using just the numbers, or the sides that have numbers. So we have opposite and adjacent. If you look back here, opposite and adjacent is tangent. So we're going to go tangent. Again, we don't know our degree, so it's x degree equal to opposite over adjacent. Okay. Now we want to get rid of tangent. To get rid of tangent, we do the inverse tangent to both sides. What you do to one side, do to the other. This will eliminate the tangent, and we're left with this equation that we need to solve. X equals tangent -1 of 16 over 21. And now we're going to turn this into decimal form. So 16 divided by 21 in our calculator. And we get x degree equals tangent of -1 of 0.7619. And now we're going to do the inverse tangent of 76.19. So again, we're looking for this button in our calculator with this calculation. So if you do it correctly, we get the degree we were looking for is 37 degrees. All right. One more. Here's my chosen angle. Let's label. Here's my hypotenuse. Across from my chosen angle is the opposite. And this guy would be my adjacent. Okay. Now based on this, I need an adjacent and a hypotenuse formula. So if we look back over here, adjacent and hypotenuse, we're going to use cosine once again. So it's going to be cosine of our missing angle, which is x degree, equals, the formula for cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So 13 divided by 35. Okay, and then we do this again. We need to get rid of cosine to solve for x. So that to get rid of that, we do inverse cosine to both sides. Inverse cosine and cosine cancel each other out, and we're left with this equation to solve. X degree equals cosine -1 of 13 over 35. And now we want to compute 13 divided by 35. To turn this into decimal form, so x degree equals cosine inverse, and we have 0.3714, and now we compute this. Inverse cosine of that is 68 degrees. And we are done. Hopefully this helps, and hopefully you guys are doing well.